A desperate stand. In the year 2417, humanity had spread far across the galaxy, colonizing countless worlds under the banner of the United Earth Alliance. But they were not alone. For decades, the UEA had been locked in a cold war with the Zoran Dominion, a ruthless empire of engineered warriors bred for conquest. Captain Nora Avery, a 20-year veteran of the UEAS Navy, patrolled the tense border aboard her ship, the UES Dauntless, a sleek, Valiant-class destroyer armed with the latest human ingenuity. The Dauntless was one of the most formidable warships in the galaxy. Avery ran a hand through her short silver hair as she studied the star map on her bridge holo display. "Helm, take us to heading 117 Mark 285, she ordered. "I want a full sweep of Sector 19. Intel reports Zorans have been sniffing around out there again." "Roger that, Captain," replied Lieutenant Jason Malik, the baby-faced helmsman. The ship banked smoothly to its new heading. Nora frowned as she eyed the uninhabited systems of Sector 19 scrolling by on the map. The Zorans had been probing UEA territory more brazenly of late. She couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming, that the Cold War was about to get very hot. Her exit commander, Liam Singh, a tall man with bronze skin and serious eyes, stepped up beside her, datapad in hand. "Patrol roster for your approval, Captain. I have Bravo team slated for." A proximity alarm blared through the bridge, cutting him off. "Report," Nora barked. "New contact bearing 220 Mark 010, called Ensign Ava Kincaid from the sensor station." Her lilac eyes were wide. "It's an emergency distress beacon from the Troy colony." Nora's blood ran cold. Troy was a major colony of over 1 million souls, a linchpin of the sector. On screen, a panicked voice crackled from the speakers. "Attacked. Repeat, this is UEA Colony Troy transmitting on all frequencies. We are under Zoran attack. Massive enemy fleet inbound. Orbital defenses falling. We can't hold them. We need immediate assistance. Please, anyone, help us." The signal dissolved into static. The bridge fell deathly silent. Every set of eyes turned to Nora. Liam gripped his datapad so hard the screen cracked. "They hit Troy. That's an act of war." Nora stared at the star map, mind racing. Troy was a core world, heavily defended. If the Zorans could assault it, nowhere was safe. This was no border skirmish. The war had begun. She keyed the ship-wide comms. "All hands, this is the captain. We just picked up a distress call from Troy Colony. They are under heavy Zoran attack." She paused a beat to let that sink in. "I know we're just one ship. I know the odds are against us. But we're also the only ones close enough to respond in time. Millions of our people are counting on us." Nora squared her shoulders, resolve hardening. "We are the line between our loved ones and conquest. We do not waver and we do not break, because we are dauntless." Battle stations. "Helm, lay in a course for Troy, maximum burn." "Aye, aye, Captain." The ship lurched as the engines flared to full power. Liam gripped a handrail as the ship accelerated hard. "What's our plan, Captain?" "We can't take on a whole invasion fleet alone." "We won't have to," Nora replied grimly. She brought up a system map, Troy Colony glowing red at the center. "The Zorans will have to take out Troy's orbital defenses before they can land ground troops. That buys us time." She jabbed a finger at the screen. "We'll use the Oort cloud to mask our approach. With any luck, we can get the drop on them, disrupt their formations, buy time for colonist evac transports to escape." Liam frowned. "That's a big gamble. We'll be vastly outgunned." Nora's ice-blue eyes flashed. "When the odds are impossible, that's when we're needed most. The colonists are depending on us, Liam. We won't let them down." As the Dauntless hurtled toward the besieged colony, Klaxons wailed and crew raced to their posts, the air electric with tension. In the armory, Marines checked their weapons with grim focus. In engineering, Techs primed the mighty fusion core. On the bridge, Nora Avery stared at the star map, tracking their progress, trying to anticipate every outcome. She keyed her comm to signal the ship. Listen up, Dauntless. In a few minutes, we'll be dropping out of warp right on top of the enemy. I won't lie to you. We'll be outnumbered and outgunned. But we have surprise on our side. We have skill and spirit on our side. Most of all, we have each other. Her voice rang with steel and fire. Zorans only know how to conquer, but humans fight for something greater, for our families, our homes, and our freedom. Today is the day we remind them what that means. This is our hour. Come what may, we will stare into the eye of the storm, and we will prevail. Dauntless strong. Dauntless strong. The crew roared back. Across the ship, 1,000 souls braced as one, squaring shoulders, breathing deep, ready for the fight of their lives, armed with the most powerful weapon in the galaxy, the indomitable human will. Nora turned back to the viewport as Troy grew on the display, the Zoran fleet glinting ominously above it, her jaw set in a hard line. Fire and steel, heart and soul, she whispered. Let's do this. Unconventional tactics. The Dauntless exploded out of warp speed, the inky void replaced by the chaotic inferno of battle as the ship decelerated hard into real space. Lances of searing light flashed past the viewports as the colony's failing orbital defense platforms traded fire with the Zoran warships. Captain Avery gripped her command chair as the ship bucked. Status report. Reading 67 Zoran capital ships. Ensign Kincaid called from the sensor station. Destroyer and cruiser analogs, Gladiator and Ravager classes. They're pounding Troy's defenses and launching landing craft. Orbital platforms won't hold much longer. Nora gritted her teeth. 1 ship against 67. The odds didn't get much worse. She keyed her armrest comm. All right, people, look alive. Phase 1. Get their attention. Helm. Attack pattern Epsilon. Engines full. Weapons. Hit them with everything we've got. Give them a bloody nose. The Dauntless wheeled and dove, racing along the edge of the Zoran formation, a fox harrying a pack of wolves. Its beam cannons flared, lancing out to rake the nearest enemy destroyers. Hull plating shattered and atmosphere vented from the wounds gouged in the Zoran ships. An alert flashed on the tactical display. Incoming fire. Evasive starboard. Nora ordered. The Dauntless corkscrewed, a brace of argent plasma beams scorching past, near misses. They're altering formation. Hexo Singh observed tensely, shifting to pursue us. Nora allowed herself a tight smile. Good, they're taking the bait. Ensign Kincaid, start the clock. I want precise timing on their response shifts. Kincaid blinked in confusion, but snapped in acknowledgement. The Dauntless danced and wove between the enemy ships, pulsing with blue-shifted drive fire, stinging the Zoran fleet again and again. The enemy destroyers lumbered after the nimble human ship, their rigid formation loosening as Nora led them on a merry chase. Commander Singh frowned at the displays, sweat beading his brow as near misses rattled the hull. Captain, what are we doing? We can't keep this up forever. Shouldn't we concentrate fire? Try to take a few of them out. Nora shook her head, eyes never leaving the flickering tactical holo. Negative. We'd never punch through their screens before they pounded us to scrap. Look at their movements, though. See how they react to our attacks. They're so intent on getting us, they're not covering each other anymore. Liam blinked, realization dawning as he saw the gaping holes opening in the Zoran formation as the ships spread out to chase the Dauntless. You're not trying to destroy them. You're pulling them out of position. Nora flashed a fierce grin. Zoran tactics are powerful but predictable. They're used to crushing resistance by sheer might. They've never fought an opponent who won't stand still. She toggled her comm. Kincaid, report. Response pattern holds, Captain. The young officer replied excitedly. Attack, 4.3 second delay, 10-degree heading shift port. Attack, 4.1 second delay, 8-degree shift starboard. They react almost the same every time we hit them. Nora pounced on the information. Helm, new pattern. Concentrate fire 4, then go to flank speed and shift heading 15 degrees port on my mark. She counted down under her breath, watching the enemy guns tracking them. Mark. Lieutenant Malik sent the ship leaping forward, veering sharply. A heartbeat later, the space they'd just occupied erupted in plasma fire, the Zoran ships shooting it where they predicted the Dauntless would be. But Nora had added her own flair to the pattern, and the human ship slipped the net. Ha! Liam barked a laugh. We're inside their decision loop. They can't react fast enough. Damn right we are, Nora said, eyes hawkish. Time to go in for the kill. Weapons, full offensive. Target their command ship's drive section. Cripple them. The Dauntless arsed through the heart of the Zoran formation, a falcon among lumbering buzzards. Pulse after pulse of searing cobalt energy stabbed out from its bow, all converging in a single point, the shimmering drive core of the Zoran flagship. The alien shields flared, strained, and then shattered under the onslaught. Armor buckled and tore. Bulkheads collapsed. The mighty warship listed drunkenly, engines flickering and fading. A ragged cheer went up on the Dauntless's bridge. Nora allowed it for a moment, then leaned forward, eyes intent. Kincaid, what's the colony status? Orbital defenses are down to 15%, Captain. But I'm reading new signatures launching from Troy. Looks like escape transports. Civilian ships are evacuating. Hope surged in Nora's chest. They'd bought enough time for the colonists to get clear. Get me a line to those transports. A babble of overlapping voices flooded the channel, the panicked chatter of freighter pilots. Nora spoke over them, her voice a rallying clarion. This is Captain Nora Avery of the UES Dauntless. We're here to get you out. All transports, make best possible speed for the Lagrange point, and jump to Titan Colony. We'll cover you. One voice rose above the rest, the transport captain's de facto leader. Dauntless, this is the Mayflower. Goddamn, is it good to hear your voice. We owe you our lives. But we'll never make it. The Zoran fighters will run us down. We don't have any weapons. Nora's response was instant and iron. Yes, you will. We'll buy you the time. We'll lead the Zorans away, pull them out of your path. Captain, Liam's voice was haunted. If we break contact now, there's no way we survive this. The Zorans will catch us, overwhelm us. Nora met his gaze steadily, unflinching. I know. Silence held for a long beat. Then slow nods spread around the bridge, grim acceptance settling on every face. They all knew the stakes. They'd all sworn the same oath, to spend their lives in defense of the innocent, even if the price of that oath was their lives themselves. The moment was shattered by the sensor alarm. Captain, new contacts. Reading 3, 8, 16 new ships decelerating in from warp speed. Silhouettes match Zoran dreadnoughts, their heaviest hitters. Nora's heart seized. Dreadnoughts, the pride of the Dominion war machine, each as strong as 10 cruisers, and they'd brought a whole flotilla. The Zorans weren't playing around anymore. She looked to Liam, the unspoken question heavy between them. Did their duty still hold, against odds so overwhelming? Liam straightened his shoulders, facing the storm head-on. Fire and steel, he said softly, invoking the ship's motto. Heart and soul. Nora nodded, pride burning in her chest. Hotter than the fear, she keyed the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. I won't mince words. We all saw those dreadnoughts drop in. The Zorans brought out the big guns. She paused a beat, listening to the distant thrust of the escaped transports, the terrified breathing of her crew. We all know what our chances are against a force like that, but we also know what's at stake. There are 1 million innocents on those transports. The last of Troy Colony. If we break off now, they all die. She closed her eyes, pouring all her fire, all her fierce conviction into her words. I can't give you odds. I can't give you certainty. All I can give you is a choice, the same choice every noble soul across history has had to make, to place others before self, to spend your life for something greater. I choose to stand in the gap. I choose to be the shield, but I can't make that choice for you. Nora opened her eyes, staring at her crew, at these beautiful, terrible, courageous souls she'd been honored to lead. I'm putting it to a vote. Stand down and live, or hold the line and give the transports their shot. What say you, Dauntless? For a single breath, the world hung still. Then Liam spoke, his voice a rolling thunder. I say we show these Zoran bastards what a human will fight for. I say we make them pay full price for every inch. I say we hold the damn line. I'm with you, Skipper, helmsman Malik chimed in fiercely. They want those colonists. They go through us. Fire and steel. The cry went up in a dozen voices, then 100. Across the ship, in engineering, in the gun bays, in the marine quarters, the chant rose to a roaring crescendo. Heart and soul. Fire and steel. Heart and soul. Tears stung Nora's eyes, her heart near bursting with love for these glorious, reckless fools. Her voice was husky as she keyed the comm. Mayflower, this is Dauntless. You can consider that path cleared. See you on the other side. She raised her eyes to the new Zoran ships looming on the view screen, blotting out the stars, Goliaths in the dark. Then back to her crew, to her valiant few, the best humanity had to offer. You heard the crew, she told Liam. Let's do this. Go to full combat alert. Ready all weapons. We hold them here, down to the last. The Dauntless leaped to meet the dreadnoughts, one dauntless soul against the night. A fateful discovery. The Dauntless shuddered as a salvo of dreadnought fire hammered its shields, the bridge crew lurching in their seats. Captain Nora Avery clung to her command chair, knuckles white, refusing to flinch as another volley thundered against the overloaded barriers. Shields down to 15%. Engineer Rahil Shah shouted over the damage alarms, her dark hair escaping its bun. We can't take much more of this. Here is part 3 of the story. Part 3. A fateful discovery. The Dauntless shuddered as a salvo of dreadnought fire hammered its shields, the bridge crew lurching in their seats. Captain Nora Avery clung to her command chair, knuckles white, refusing to flinch as another volley thundered against the overloaded barriers. Shields down to 15%. Engineer Rahil Shah shouted over the damage alarms, her dark hair escaping its bun. We can't take much more of this. Steady, people, steady, Nora urged through gritted teeth. The transports are almost clear. Tactical. What's our status? Lieutenant Kincaid consulted her flickering holo, the display warped by the ship's wavering power. We've knocked out 9 enemy ships, including 2 dreadnoughts, but the rest are regrouping. They're massing for another attack run. Nora stared at the holo, watching the Zoran fleet align itself into an arrowhead formation. Dozens of warships locking their fearsome weapons on the lone human defender. They'd be in firing range in moments. The Dauntless's failing shields would never hold against the onslaught. Commander Liam Singh met her gaze, his young face lined with strain and fierce pride. We held the line, he said softly. We bought the time the colonists needed. It's been an honor, Captain. Nora swallowed hard, forcing her head high. If these were to be their last moments, she would meet them standing tall. The honor was mine, Liam. All of you. Dauntless strong. Dauntless strong. The bridge crew chorused, raising their fists. Nora turned to face the view screen, to stare down the oncoming armada. She wouldn't close her eyes, wouldn't look away. She would bear witness to her crew's courage down to the last. Enemy ships entering weapons range, Kincaid reported, her voice steely calm. Firing in 3, 2, 1. Captain, new contact. Sensor Officer Liu suddenly cried. Bearing 117 Mark 285. What? Nora whirled, hope and dread warring in her heart. Was it reinforcements? More enemies? Get it on screen. The view screen flickered, and Nora's breath caught. It wasn't a ship that hung in the starry black. It was a distortion, a ripple in the very fabric of space, like a heat haze on a summer road. As they watched, the distortion pulsed, once, twice, and then unfurled like a flower, reality peeling back to reveal a swirling maelstrom of light and shadow, a wound in the skin of the universe. "What the hell is that?" someone whispered. "Unknown," Lou replied, his voice hushed with awe. "But it's putting out readings like I'd never seen. Massive gravimetric distortions, off-the-scale Hawking radiation, exotic matter signatures. It's a wormhole," Dr. Sorensen, the ship's science officer, breathed. The elderly woman leaned forward in her chair, eyes alight with wonder. A traverse wormhole, a tunnel through space-time itself, incredibly stable, and definitely artificial. Someone, or something, opened this. Nora stared at the anomaly, transfixed. A way out. An escape from certain death. It was impossible. And yet here it was. She shook herself, the captain slamming back into place. "Are the transports clear of the combat zone?" "Affirmative, Captain," Kincaid reported. "Last civilian ship just made warp jump." Nora nodded, decision crystallizing. "Then it's time we were leaving too. Helm, lay in a course for that thing, best possible speed." "Belay that," Dr. Sorensen cut in. The science officer rarely raised her voice on the bridge, but now her tone crackled with urgency. "Captain, we have no idea where that wormhole leads. It could spit us out anywhere. The heart of a star, a black hole, deep intergalactic space. We can't risk it." Nora met the doctor's plaintive gaze with steel of her own. "We know exactly what awaits us here, Doctor. We stay, we die. That wormhole is the only thing standing between us and oblivion. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let this crew, this ship, burn without exhausting every option. We held the line. Now it's time to live to fight another day. Helm, engage." The deck plates shuddered as the Dauntless leaped forward, the wormhole swelling to fill the screen. Nora locked her eyes on it, refusing to look back at the Zorans, the certainty of destruction. They'd rolled the dice, and this was their play. Wherever it led, they'd face it as they had everything else. Together. "Captain." There was a strange note in Liam's voice. Nora glanced to him quizzically. He gestured to the screen, to the yawning gateway. "Are you seeing this?" Nora turned back, brow furrowed. At first she noticed nothing odd. The same pearlescent light, the same vertiginous tunnel. But then, as they hurtled closer, details began to resolve in the shimmering portal, silhouettes taking shape in the light. "Is that a ship?" Kincaid asked incredulously. It was. The outline was unmistakable. A long hull, elegant wings, the flare of engines. But it was like no ship Nora had ever seen. Glowing lines of light pulsed along its hull, and its very edges seemed to blur, as if it was not quite solid, not entirely there. Dr. Sorensen was on her feet, her face incandescent with excitement. "I'm getting the same readings from the ship as the wormhole. The same exotic energies. Captain, I don't think that's just a ship. I think it's what created the wormhole. And I think it's beckoning us in." Nora stared at the ethereal ship, heart pounding. Every rational cell in her brain was screaming at her to turn aside, to flee this impossible thing. But something deeper pulled at her, an instinct beyond thought. A feeling that this ship, this moment, was the crux, the fulcrum around which all else would turn. "Hold course," she said softly. "Take us in." The Dauntless plunged into the gaping maw of the wormhole, the glowing ship floating before it like a guiding lantern. Light engulfed them, searing, blinding. The ship bucked and rolled, alarms screaming, gravity lurching sickeningly. And then, stillness. Slowly, the crew uncurled from their braced positions, blinking in the sudden calm. "Report," Nora croaked. "Where are we?" It was Liam who answered, his voice hushed with wonder. "Where?" "Inside the ship, Captain." Nora's head snapped up. The view screen showed a soaring chamber of glowing lines and pulsing light, the architecture at once alien and strangely familiar. And there, hovering in the center of it all, was a figure, humanoid, but taller, lither, its form composed more of light than matter. It raised a hand in unmistakable greeting. "My God," Dr. Sorensen breathed. "First contact." Nora slowly rose from her chair, unable to tear her eyes from the being. Fear and wonder warred within her, the weight of this moment pressing upon her soul. What new path had they just begun? What wonders and what perils? There was only one way to find out. Squaring her shoulders, Captain Nora Avery stepped forward to meet the shining alien and the unknown future. Power and purpose. Captain Nora Avery stared at the ethereal being floating before her, its form a shifting dance of light and energy. Her heart pounded in her ears, a potent mix of awe and trepidation thrumming through her veins. First contact. The most significant moment in human history. And it was happening here, now, to her and her battle-weary crew. She swallowed hard, struggling for words equal to the moment. "I am Captain Nora Avery of the United Earth Alliance ship Dauntless. We come in peace, seeking understanding between our peoples." The being inclined its head, a curiously human gesture. When it spoke, its voice was a melodic thrum that seemed to resonate in Nora's bones. "Welcome, Captain Nora Avery. I am called Luminous. We have been waiting for you for a very long time." Nora blinked, a chill skittering down her spine. "Waiting for us? How did you know we were coming?" Luminous spread its arms, encompassing the soaring chamber, the incredible ship, the very wormhole that had brought them here. "We have watched your kind for eons, observed the flickering flame of your civilization from afar. We knew that one day your path would lead you to us. To this moment, this choice." "What choice?" Commander Liam Singh demanded, stepping forward to flank Nora. His posture was taut, his hand resting near his sidearm. Luminous turned, and though its face was a mask of light, Nora swore she saw a smile. "The choice that all who come to this nexus must make, Liam Singh. The choice of what to do with power." The being gestured, and a console shimmered into existence before them, its surface alive with glowing glyphs and shifting forms. "This ship, this repository, is a storehouse of knowledge and technology beyond your wildest imagining. Wonders that could uplift your civilization to heights undreamed, or reduce it to ashes." Nora stepped closer to the console, the dancing lights reflecting in her eyes. "What kind of technology?" "Everything," Luminous said simply. "Clean energy to power 1,000 worlds. Medical science to extend life and eradicate disease. Propulsion to cross the galaxy in a heartbeat." Its voice dropped, turning somber. "And weapons. Weapons that could make your mightiest dreadnoughts look like children's toys. Weapons that could shatter planets, or scourge entire systems of life." Nora recoiled as if burned, the visions of devastation all too vivid. The Zoran dreadnoughts had seemed an unstoppable force. But this was beyond reckoning. She met Liam's gaze and saw her own fears reflected there. "Why?" she asked hoarsely, dragging her eyes back to Luminous. "Why would you give us this? Why now?" The being spread its hands, a gesture of profound sorrow and fathomless hope. "Because you stand at the crossroads, Nora Avery. Your species, your civilization. Your war with the Zorans is but the first step on a path that will define the cosmos for eons to come. Will you be protectors or destroyers? Will you lift up or subjugate? That choice, that path, begins here, now with you." Nora shook her head, the weight of it threatening to crush her. I don't know," she whispered. "This is too much. I'm just a soldier. I can't decide the fate of worlds." "You can," Luminous said gently. "You must. That is why you are here. why you were chosen, not for your rank, but for your character, your strength, your compassion, your unyielding will to protect. The universe has need of such as you, Nora Avery. Nora looked again to the console, to the terrible power and awesome responsibility it represented. She thought of Earth, of the colonies, of all the lives entrusted to her care. She thought of the Zorans, of the cycle of war and retribution that had ground on for generations. Could she end it? Could she forge a new path? Or would she only make it worse? She closed her eyes, the faces of her crew flashing before her. Stalwart Liam, brilliant Rahil, brave Kincaid. They had trusted her to lead them, to make the hard calls. Could she still be that leader in the face of this? Could she rise to this moment, this challenge, as she had to everyone before? Fire and steel, heart and soul, the motto of the Dauntless, the code by which they lived and fought and died. It had seen them through 100 battles, 1,000 trials. It would light her way now. Nora opened her eyes, decision crystallizing in their icy blue depths. She stepped to the console, hand outstretched, and the world went white. Power surged through her, a tsunami of knowledge and energy, and pure, distilled potential. It was exhilarating and terrifying, ecstatic and agonizing. She felt herself being remade, her mind and body, and very soul transformed by the surge tide. When it ebbed, when the world reformed around her, Nora was changed. She could feel the thrum of the alien technology in her bones, a new understanding, a new power. She met Luminous's gaze, and in its depthless eyes she saw pride and sorrow and a solemn hope. "What have you done to me?" she asked, and scarcely recognized her own voice. "I have given you the key," Luminous said softly. "The key to the repository, to the power and potential within. I have made you the nexus, the deciding point. What happens now? The path your species will take. It is in your hands, Nora Avery." Nora looked down at her hands, tiny sparks dancing between her fingers. The power to shape worlds, to change the course of history, an awful, wondrous burden. She turned to her crew, to her valiant few who had followed her into the jaws of hell itself. They stared back at her, awe and trepidation and fierce, unflinching loyalty writ large upon their faces. "What do we do, Captain?" Liam asked, trusting her even in this, the most monumental of moments. Nora squared her shoulders, the mantle of command, of destiny, settling upon her like a shroud and a shield. "We do what we have always done," she said, and in her voice was the toll of fate's bell. "We hold the line. We protect the innocent, and we forge a new path, a better path, for all." She turned to the viewport, to the stars streaking by beyond, each one a promise and a challenge, a future waiting to be written. "Set a course for Earth," she commanded, power thrumming in every word. "We have work to do. Fire and steel, heart and soul." The Dauntless burst from the wormhole in a blaze of cerulean light, the gleaming ship emerging into the embattled skies above Earth. On the bridge, Captain Nora Avery stood tall, her eyes alight with an ethereal power, her very being resonating with the hum of ancient technology. The scene that greeted them was one of devastation. The shattered remnants of Earth's defense fleet drifted in the void, gutted hulks and frozen corpses, a grim testament to the ferocity of the battle. And there, amidst the carnage, loomed the massed might of the Zoran armada, poised above the defenseless blue marble of humanity's homeworld. "My God," Commander Liam Singh breathed, horror and fury etched into every line of his face. "We're too late." "No," Nora said, and in her voice was the certainty of tides, the implacability of mountains. "We're exactly where we need to be." She turned to her crew, to these stalwart few who had been to hell, and back at her side. In their eyes she saw fear, yes, but also determination, trust, the unshakable bond of those who had faced the abyss together. "This is it," she told them, power thrumming in every word. "The moment we've trained for, fought for, blood for. The Zorans think they've won. They think Earth is theirs for the taking. But they forgot one thing. Her eyes blazed, incandescent with purpose. They forgot about us. The dauntless, the unbreakable, the line in the sand. She turned back to the viewport, to the waiting armada, cold resolve crystallizing in her heart. This is our home, our people, and we will defend them, whatever the cost. Fire and steel, heart and soul. The crew roared back, fists raised in defiance and devotion. Nora nodded, pride and love a fierce ache in her chest. Battle stations. The Dauntless surged forward, a silver lance aimed at the heart of the Zoran fleet. The enemy ships bristled with weapons, a thicket of destruction poised to annihilate the lone defender. But Nora did not falter. She reached within, to the well of power that now suffused her being, the incredible technologies of the ancient repository. With a thought, she activated the ship's new defenses, shimmering barriers snapping into place around the hull, a gossamer web of impenetrable force. The Zoran fire slammed into the barriers and splashed harmlessly away, the fury of Gigadons dissipating like rain against glass. Nora smiled a wolf's smile. Our turn. The Dauntless opened fire, but not with the conventional batteries the Zorans were expecting. Instead, lances of pure, scintillating energy leaped from the ship, each beam a searing lance of focused power. They sliced through Zoran shields like a scalpel through silk, shearing hulls and vaporizing decks with ruthless precision. The Zoran line buckled, ships reeling back in stunned disarray. They rallied swiftly, a credit to their discipline, formations tightening as they sought to engulf the Dauntless through sheer weight of numbers. But Nora was already moving, the Dauntless dancing amidst the enemy ships with preternatural grace, always a step ahead, a thought beyond. She wove a web of destruction, each motion poetry, each shot a killing verse. And with every fallen foe, every sundered ship, the Dauntless grew stronger. The exotic energies of the ancient technology drank in the fury of battle, converting it, amplifying it, channeling it back into the fray. The ship became a conduit, a nexus of raw, primal power, and at its heart stood Nora, the eye of the hurricane, the still point around which the chaos revolved. On the Zoran flagship, Admiral Krax watched in mounting disbelief and dread as his mighty armada was systematically dismantled by a single ship. This was impossible, a nightmare made manifest. What manner of devilry had the humans unleashed? All ships, converge on that vessel. He roared, spittle flying from his fanged mouth. Destroy it at any cost. The Zoran fleet surged forward, a tide of metal and malice, determined to drown the Dauntless through sheer mass. Nora met them head-on, a falcon among the storm crows, the energies within her building to a crescendo. And at the moment of impact, the instant the Zoran ships crashed against the Dauntless's shields in a cataclysm of unleashed energies, Nora let go. She released the surging power within in one titanic pulse, a nova burst of blinding, searing radiance that engulfed the battlefield. When the light faded, the Zoran fleet was gone, reduced to drifting atoms, to echoes of echoes. The Dauntless hung alone in the void, a gleaming silver beacon above the blue earth. In the stunned silence that followed, a ragged cheer arose from the crew, a cry of victory and relief, and sheer, unadulterated awe at what they had just witnessed, just accomplished. But Nora did not join the celebration. She stared at the emptiness where the enemy had been, the weight of power, of potential for ruin, heavy upon her soul. This was just the beginning, she knew. The opening salvo in a war that would reshape the galaxy. The ancient repository had granted them a mighty boon, but also a terrible responsibility. To be the shield and the sword, the voice of reason, and the fist of resolution. To forge a new path for their species, their civilization. It was a burden she would have given anything to set aside. But she couldn't, because she was the Dauntless, the unbreakable. And this was her duty, her destiny. Fire and steel, heart and soul. The words had never felt more apt, more true. Drawing a deep breath, Captain Nora Avery squared her shoulders and turned to face the unknown future, her ship and her crew at her back, the light of distant stars beckoning them ever onward. The end.